Welcome back to Inspired or Acquired. This is the podcast where we interview real business owners, talk real numbers, and ask them whether or not they would sell their business. We're joined today with David Barlev from Goji Labs, coming to us from the West Coast, from California, outside of LA. And I've got my co-host here, as always, Clint Fiore, mergers and acquisition specialist out of Texas. So, David, it's good to see you. It's been too long. How are you?
I'm doing well, Pat. Good to see you as well. And Clint, good to be with you too.
Thanks.
So for folks who don't know, about you and your business, tell us a little bit about Goji Labs, what you do, who your customers are, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. So Goji is a strategy-first product agency. We partner with companies at various stages and help them get after business goals by leveraging digital products or digital transformation. We'll work with early stage companies and help them get their products out to market and help them search for product market fit. And we'll work with more established organizations and companies to solve problems with their digital stacks and help them capture more customer value, increase revenue, reduce overhead, those sorts of things.
All right, cool. So if I want to build a software tool, or if we have some really big software project that we want to take on, we'd come to Goji Labs to basically soup to nuts, like that's strategy and do all the coding, design, develop it.
That's right. Usually folks will come to us with either a problem in the market that they've identified that they'd like to address, where a digital product will be the vehicle for doing so. Or they'll come to us with an existing legacy platform or framework, and they're looking to either branch out and capture a new sector of their market, or they've run into certain issues over time with scalability or churn. In which, in both of these cases, we basically will go in, audit and understand what exists, get clarity on where it is that we want to take their business, where it is that we want the company to go. And once we create that clarity, we build a roadmap for success and then proceed with execution. Execution for us usually means research, customer validation, UX, UI design, software development, and testing. And this is an iterative process such that after we get a particular solution out to market, we continue to measure the response and continue to iterate and build it out.
Okay. The roadmap never ends, right?
That's right.
The other thing I want to clarify, some people are like, hey, we're a Salesforce only shop, or we're, Ruby on Rails only, or we're WordPress only. Like, what platforms do you guys work on?
So our focus is primarily web, mobile, and IoT. We have several stacks in terms of technology that we work in, but those all tend to be the kind of robust frameworks where you can build scalable web and mobile applications. So we don't really focus on things like building within Salesforce or building within Webflow. We'll do the occasional kind of WordPress build out. We sometimes manage really large websites that are the gateway for more custom interactions with a customer or a SaaS tool. And so that's kind of maybe like 10% of our work. But for the most part, our core focus is to pair the right technology for the right use case, such that we can build scalable and maintainable architectures. Some of the products that we have brought to market, will get, many thousands of transactions per minute. And so it becomes crucial to actually have the right architecture in place. And to that extent, we prefer to use some of those custom frameworks out there, Ruby on Rails, Node, Golang, such that we have full control of kind of that entire server infrastructure and architecture, and to really enable that growth that some of our partners want to see.
Okay.
Well, Patrick, I'd love to jump in and just put on my M&A hat, because this is an exciting type of business, and this is going to be a fun conversation to try to jump in. So, David, I'm just going to pretend we're meeting for the first time and exploring exit options for your company, Goji Labs, right? And I'm just going to play 20 questions with you real quick to just try to figure out, what do we got here? and this is how, an M&A advisor would talk to you. But like, just talk me through like how long have you been doing this first off? Like, when did you start this thing?
Yeah, Clint, great question. So we actually launched Goji about just over 10 years ago. So we're celebrating 10 years at Goji this month.
Hey, congrats.
Thank you.
10 years is a long time in this industry. That's awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And who owns this company? Do you have investors? Did you bootstrap it? Is it all you? Like, what does your ownership structure look like?
Yeah. So essentially I have a co-founder, who is a close friend. He's our CTO. And we started the company together, back at the very end of 2014, start of 2015. Mm-hmm. Our major investment in the company was, a laptop. That's kind of where we set out. So certainly fully bootstrapped, and I don't know, I think very fortunate that we've been able to get to where we are today.
Awesome. So the two of you own 100%, started with a laptop. I'm assuming this is a pretty asset light business. Do you have a physical location, or is it a distributed team, or how does your team look?
We don't. Our team is distributed across North America and Europe. We, as you said, like very light on assets. Our inventory is basically our team. Mm-hmm. And we used to have a couple of offices that we had rented, but in COVID, we sort of really leaned into the remote first model, which we always kind of had. So we've kind of let those go, and we find opportunities to get the team together on these retreats that we do that tend to be extremely fun.
How many teammates do you have now?
We have just under 50 team members at Goji. The management structure is pretty lean. So pretty much everyone is either product design or dev. We have a small sales and marketing team, and a small operations team. But this is, I think, part of why we're able to continue to make inroads in how well we do what we do is that we have everyone on the team pretty much understanding and contributing to how Goji actually delivers.
Great. And I have to ask you this because it all factors into my value opinion here, but like, what would you say you do here, David? Like, what would be your like day-to-day role? Are you doing client-facing work? Are you doing rainmaking? Are you just managing the team? Like, can you walk me through a day in the life? Like, how much do you work in this business, and what's your primary function here 10 years after your start?
Clint, I mostly try to just stay out of the way at this point. I would say my function at this point is there's really kind of two major roles, right? There's like an outward facing function and an inward facing function. At the outward side, I process a lot of our deals and hold some of the relationships with our partners. I'm not really in the day-to-day work with our customers at all. Those are all led by PMs. But I'm usually I'm a part of sort of like the deal processing and deal signing intake for onboarding new partners. And then I serve a function of like an umbrella engagement manager across the board for customers that want to get some face time with me and want to make sure that kind of things are going the way that they should, and also to offer another channel for feedback for our teams. Inward, I participate in sort of like high level strategy on customer work that we deliver, but mostly on how we do things internally. And so in terms of weighing in as to how our delivery processes, how we can maintain things like profitability and kind of creating stronger outputs in our delivery such that we maintain strong customer relationships. These are all things that I touch kind of within our internal process. And finally, I would say there's a bit of kind of like the marketing aspect. So I'll kind of go and produce content and kind of try to really help share the many learnings we've had on how folks should get products to market, as we've done it, about 500 times already. So I think that's probably the part of my job that I love the most, is to really provide kind of an accelerant for folks, whether they work with us or not, in kind of projecting our brand out there and helping people do good work regardless of whether they have an immediate partnership with Goji.
When you say the relationships with partners, are you referring to key vendors? Are you referring to clients? Like, what do you call
Good question. Primarily, we call our clients partners, as we really do. And I think this is core to the value proposition of Goji. Like, we are not really here to build you an app that you ask for. We are here to help you launch your company or to partner with you to help you get kind of your company back on track. And so you'll hear me use that term interchangeably.
Okay. That helps bring clarity there. And how long do your engagements with your partners or your clients, like, how long do those typically last start to finish on average?
Good question. So we have, I would say, like 3 types. They kind of fall into 3 buckets. There could sort of be like maybe like rapid or accelerated engagements, where we get brought on to fix a problem or to create realignment within an organization that we work with. And those engagements might be pretty quick. They might take a month to 3 months or so. We have larger builds, and those can kind of span anywhere between, I would say, 3 months to 2 years, where we are actively creating sort of like either we're getting a new venture out to market and we continue to grow and expand the value offering while they're trying to raise money or while they're kind of implementing it, or we will work with a company long-term to sort of fix issues that they are seeing. And the third are sort of like more ongoing service retainers. For example, we've been working with the World Health Organization for about 10 years now. We built them a platform that tracks from pharmaceutical patents globally. And every year we basically work with them to continue to scale and improve what the platform does. So it's sort of like those, but that is an example of something where we really will end up doing, 6 months of really condensed work over the course of a year, right? So it's a little bit of a lower intensity, more drawn out partnership.
Hey guys, wanted to take a quick break from the show just to tell you about our companies for a second. I'm Patrick Dichter and I own Appletree Business Services. We do quality, accounting, and tax nationwide. So if you're running a business or looking to buy a business, we'd love to help you out with accounting and tax services. You can find us at appletreebusiness.com. And Clint, tell us about Bison Business.
Yeah, Bison Business is my firm. We do nationwide M&A. So we help people buy and sell companies. Most of our customers have companies in the 1 to 20 million revenue range, profitable businesses. So if you've got one and you're ready to get acquired, you can reach out to us at bisonbusiness.com for a complimentary evaluation. We can get you to market and get you sold. If you're a listener that's a buyer that wants to buy a company that size, make sure you're on our email list, because we'll send you out deals first before they hit the market anywhere else. But we'd love to serve you anytime you're thinking of acquiring or selling your business. We want to be your first stop at Bison Business.
Awesome. Now back to the show.
What would you say the mix is from the short term to the longer term clients in terms of percentages?
Yeah. So I would say probably about 20% of our revenue comes from like the very long term, probably another 20 from the shorter, the kind of the short term, like up to 3 month engagements. And then the remaining 60%, the bulk of what we do is sort of like active, kind of large design or build engagements that we deliver on.
Is it pretty standardized in terms of what you're billing, or are you custom bidding all this? And do you have any customer concentration problems as far as like, do you have one client that's more than 10% of your revenue, or is it pretty spread out from a pretty large mix?
Yeah, good question. I would say that in a given year, we'll usually have 1 or 2 customers that do make up probably about 10% of revenue each. And then others get progressively smaller from there. It has been, in a way, you talk about concentration. I think oftentimes folks think of that as like an issue, right? Like, what happens when this thing goes away, right? From our perspective, we get quite a few of those inbound every year and try to choose the ones where we think we have like the best fit for. And we would rather do a small number of large projects than a large number of small projects. It just helps us I think it kind of elevates the work that we do. So just to kind of share with you kind of our philosophy around that. So I would say that it is somewhat concentrated to that effect. But in a given year, we'll probably do, between 20 and 40 builds of various sizes. So it is fairly spread out. There in a given year, we will usually have one or two customers where there's an outsized portion of revenue that comes from.
Cool. I'll finish my 20 questions here pretty quick, but I appreciate your patience.
Feels like a lightning round of sorts.
Yeah, like what has the revenue trend look like the last few years? And can you just walk me through kind of revenue and EBITDA and how you've been trending?
Over the last 10 years, I would say we have probably doubled our revenue nearly every year. Wow. With a few, it started out pretty small. So like that helps that stat be true. I would say that in the last couple of years, as our company grew a bit, we would probably see a growth of maybe between 20 and 30% increase in revenue year over year. That's probably since 2022. So we are looking at about, for 2024, just over 6.5 million revenue, with about 2.5 million in EBITDA.
That is awesome, by the way. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's a tremendous growth rate. It's a tremendous story of 10 years of just consistent execution. Really proud of what you've done here.
Thank you.
Man,
you're making me really emotional. Yeah.
It's a big deal. I almost think like my head starts spinning into like who would be ideal. The natural thing you always think of are people that are kind of like in this space or around this space. But I also am just going wild with my imagination here of like what you have in your customers is kind of a pipeline of fast growth technology oriented companies. And I'm like, how cool would it be for like a VC to own this company, or something like that funds Series Bs or something like that. I don't know. I'm just kind of putting on my...
Yeah, you're too big for, solo nurture buyer. And you're definitely like in the crosshairs of strategic, bigger buyers at that size.
Yeah, I could see there being industry players that would love to talk and talk about a merger or acquisition. But I could also see some kind of off the wall bids come in from folks that just want exposure to your customers, that want to have the relationship, because you're coming in as a business partner in a sense, like you call your clients, and then anybody that helps those companies once they find product market fit and get established, like who's the people that help them go to the next level, like those could be interesting conversations to have. And then I guess my last question before I kind of ballpark here is how much of the business coming in do you think is because of relationships with you and your CTO versus your sales and marketing team just pulling down new business based off your own systems and tech that you've developed internally that transfers more easily? So like how much of this is the David show, when it comes to clients?
Yeah, I would say probably about 90% of our inbound is that, right? It is inbound. It's maybe a little bit because of our content marketing effort, but a lot of it is just because of our brand kind of being out there, some SEO, some advertising and such. And then I think the way that we obviously process the leads and our, having been around for as long as we have is really helpful for the close rate that we're able to achieve. But it's not at the moment, even though the inbound sales is kind of driven by me, I would say that it's not because that it is me in this share, right? It's not me leveraging my own network to continuously generate that business, right? Mm-hmm. And in fact, like one of the things that we want to try to kind of work at, we did a lot toward that last year and are doing, more this year, is to create basically a more scalable sales operation. We've been so focused on delivery and creating a really strong product that is Goji. And one of the things that we have not neglected, but just was not our core focus is like how to create that sort of like machine that will really look outward. And our brand and our reputation, we've been very fortunate to have that be something that is just fully inbound. Does that answer your question, Clint?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's super helpful. So, when I get into these fast growth, tech oriented businesses that are above 2 million of earnings, I have to do a pretty wide ballpark because it varies really wildly in how acquirers would value you. And so don't hold me to this, but like, I think of this gut level reaction after this conversation, like I wouldn't be surprised if you could get offers in the 15 to 25 million range where you're at right now, with a few caveats on that of, we'd have to verify the sales and marketing engine does work there, that your company can pass the, what happens if you get hit by a bus test, and is a durable, repeatable, customer acquisition and fulfillment experience. Especially if you're willing to stay around for a transitional time. Like a lot of folks would want a 2, 3, or 4 year transition window to work with you and ensure that you're there through maybe the effort of building the outbound sales channels and getting, all your acquired knowledge that you've built up more systemized throughout your organization, and that you're able to maintain some key relationships with clients as you go. So like if you're able to handhold the acquirer, I feel like you could get that sort of offer, but it would have a component like cash, and some of that would be earn out. But I still think like your price range would be somewhere there, and you may find some crazy offer even higher than that if you just are the absolute perfect fit that really fulfills someone's needs. So I don't want to promise that, but I've seen crazy multiples on strategic buys too. So that said, when you just think, let's throw the mid level of that range out there, say $20 million. You and your partner own 100% of this thing, so you'd be chopping that up together according to your ownership levels. Does this get to where you start saying, you know what, I've been doing this for 10 years. That's starting to sound pretty good, Clint? Or are you saying, does that not phase you at this point? So I just love to get your initial reaction to that type of figure.
We've been getting these like initial kind of like buy inquiries for a few years now. And so the valuation that you're sharing, I'm actually tracking that pretty closely, and being honest and understanding kind of where Goji is and having kind of the inside scoop. I think truthfully that's about right. Like somewhere within that range is probably correct. I was thinking probably under 20 is not interesting. But so I don't think that it's like way outside the ballpark, and there's always work to do.
Yeah.
The way that I've always thought about a transaction is, how do I don't think that I would actually be interested to just give the thing away, right? I always think about it in terms of maybe just taking some chips off the table. It has been 10 years, and our space, a lot of our efforts today is like kind of bracing for this AI revolution that's knocking on everyone's door and is like, it's already here. And so there's a lot to think about, and we're trying to figure out, obviously we're working hard to leverage that to our advantage. But so to me, it was always more of a move of like taking some chips off the table and kind of staying involved, and maybe even getting equity in whatever is kind of acquiring the next thing and becoming a part of that. The types of organizations that have reached out to us in the past that have been interesting, if that's interesting for your listeners to hear about,
Absolutely.
Has been either like a very strategic buy. So someone is they need the capabilities, they're trying to reach our clients, but also they're sort of like an international entity, and they're looking for like a foothold in the LA market, for example, where our brand is the strongest, right? So that's one example. Others are like sort of like giant, dev shops that are international, and they're looking to grow by having a more strategic. A lot of times they're like very focused on execution, and they're looking for a strategic kind of point that can serve as a strong funnel, so to speak, for like their larger engineering base, let's say. Those I don't find as inspiring. The roll-up strategy and that sort of thing. You mentioned VCs as like a potential angle, but to be frank, like I actually think VCs are not that excited about the work that we do. VCs very much care about keeping capability and IP in-house. And so a lot of our startup clients, like success for them is like graduating towards raising, anywhere from $2 to $50 million. And some of our clients, I think to date, our clients have raised a total of over $1 billion. So some have been like really major success case studies, but then there's like a very strong push to kind of roll everything in house. And actually, I find that private equity, maybe like mid-market, are ones where digital transformation is such a big piece in terms of doing what it is that they want to do, which is like to make things more efficiently such that they can roll it back up. And we've worked on several platforms to solve problems that were private equity backed. And that always is like a path that I thought was really interesting. Also interesting just in terms of like sales growth, but is something that I think is a very interesting target where there's just a little played out, but like the synergy there I think is really significant. Right?
Yeah, I mean that's a big. I mean, I think you're spot on. That's a huge part of the PE playbook is digital transformation to drive shareholder value. And so if they've got you in house to be able to work with their companies and heck, they may even find targets inside the customer base too. So like that's a thought.
Yeah, I know Salesforce shot this sold a strategic, and all their leads came from private equity groups. But why, David, why is less than 20 not interesting? Because you feel like you've got a lot of growth and runway left?
Yeah, it's a good question. So essentially, I think the thing that puts the whole thing in, I don't know to say if it puts us in a bind, but like the problem is that the math is just different, right? So like put 15 mil down, cut it in half, give 40% of it to Uncle Sam, right? And then compare that to like, just because we're highly profitable, I think that's the thing that is a bulwark against kind of like a lower acquisition. And you guys might have more information on this, but what I was thinking is that the valuation, like a higher valuation conversation or a higher payout conversation, becomes a little bit easier when the intention is to really sell like 30% of the company and not sell the whole thing outright, such that a lot of value can essentially be shared. So Pat, like this is kind of how we've been thinking about it, and why companies that have come to us and said, oh, well, you guys are looking like whatever, 6x EBITDA. It's like, well, okay, but it feels like we're going to need something that makes more sense in order for us to kind of make that move. And the idea of selling 30% as opposed to giving it away outright is, I think, can work kind of in service of that. And it maybe becomes like a multi-transactional thing, right? Like there's a few rounds by which ownership is properly transferred. So just sharing with you guys kind of like some of this, a little bit of like direct experience of conversations we've actually had or due diligence we've actually done with kind of the outlook of what we're seeing and what we've been able to accomplish, right? The trend continues to go up. And so we would want to make sure that essentially gets priced in.
Yeah. And so what if you don't sell and we catch up in 4 or 5 years? You're going to go from 6 million and 35% EBITDA to what? Like, where do you think you guys could get in 4 to 5 years?
I think this gets at something that sometimes I ask myself, like, do other founders think in this way? But I'm not really sitting here on the clock and measuring our valuation every day. Like I am kind of trying to be tangentially aware of it. But really our core focus is to like be able to deliver on larger, more complex and more interesting problems over time, which since our inception has attracted larger and more interesting projects to us. And so our goal is not to become a giant app factory. In fact, I think that business is kind of, not that it's going away, but it's going to materially change, right? And it's really more leaning into like how to leverage strategy to solve problems well and quickly and measure those outcomes. And that's where the change is going. And this is what companies, for whatever reason, at certain sizes, they struggle to do that for themselves. And having an outside partner who can think clearly and kind of creative, show them a mirror and help them find that alignment and find creative solutions. It's an essential thing for them. And so to my mind, it's, we might double and double again in the next 4 years, but I can tell you guys truthfully that it's not really our goal to like just push that revenue forward.
So your approach is kind of like thinking about your partners, your clients as partners, and that you're there to help them solve business problems. I think that maybe gives you a brighter future than a commoditized provider of apps or a commoditized provider of certain development work or whatever. And that allows you to kind of surf on top of AI changes and app ecosystem changes and all these different things that are coming down the pipe, because you're essentially thinking about it as like you come with your business idea and we're helping you bring it to life using digital transformation. And that means I'm a little less fearful of the boogeyman that's going to come, like kill our business model and disrupt us, because even in the last 10 years, so much has changed and you've continued to iterate, evolve, and grow. I think that's fun. I think what I'm trying to get to here is it sounds like you're still having fun. It sounds like you're still enjoying the work. And I think that's a big delineation I'd love to get that from your mouth, like, are you still loving it? Does it still, do you get the Sunday scaries and not want to come to work on Monday sometimes? Or you feel like, these challenges are fun to you still, or where are you at in that side of things?
So Click, the story I like to tell is that when we started Goji, we very quickly were able to bag like an engagement. We built a health insurance engine, and for context, at the time we thought it was an enormous project, right? For context, the total budget on that project was $32,000. So we worked at this thing very, very hard, and we were able to deliver it within about 3 months. And we were like, now what? We basically all of a sudden we're like, okay, we just finished our lunch and like it's unclear what we want to do next. And I would say over the years, like the challenges that I actually am across or that I'm trying to solve day to day have sort of evolved, right? So it used to be like, how do you formulate product strategy, or how you make sure that engineering is getting done in the right way for a given engagement? Whereas now it's like, how do you lead a 50-person team, right? And staying innovative and staying ahead of like new processes and new technologies that are coming to market. Now, obviously, I'm not doing that all on my own. We have an amazing team, and to the extent that I can, try to kind of guide them in the right direction. And it's not like I am immune to the Sunday scaries, depending on what goes on a given quarter. But I think at a high level, definitely having fun, and just the nature of what I personally do has changed a lot. And I expect it will continue to change. So I'm trying to kind of roll with the punches and learn what I can. And this is also why I'm not looking to just give the thing away, right? It has to be right. And I want to say one other thing, which is that the team that we've been able to cultivate at Goji, I think, has something pretty special and really means the world to me. And so we've had a couple of folks in the past that have approached us for potential transaction where maybe the numbers were there, but like the fit wasn't really there. And it really, in addition to our brand and IP, the team is kind of what you're buying. And if we don't think that that's going to play out well because of some sort of culture mismatch, then we're not going to do it, right? And that's sort of like a responsibility that I have to my employees and my team members that I think I take probably even more seriously than just like an exit event that is potentially on the horizon. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's often a super important thing, because these are the folks that made all this happen, and and your company is your people. Like that, there is no separating it. Like you have a collection of people that do this great work, and that's it. Like
yeah.
Your collective reputation in the marketplace is what makes your world go round. And so they're obviously correctly highly prioritized by you. I appreciate that. I haven't asked you about your personal life much, but I'd love to like bring that into this a little bit. Patrick and I are both dads and have a family, and we believe, that our businesses should kind of serve the life we're trying to build for ourselves in our life. And I know this factors in to some extent, in all this as well, but can you tell us about like your family situation, and also like, if you don't mind sharing, like when you started with a laptop, you seem young, were you fresh out of school? Did you have some net worth already, or were you pretty much just clean slate?
It was pretty much just a laptop, Clint.
Yes.
Just quick background on me. I grew up in the Bay Area. I got a bachelor's in applied physics. I got a master's in electrical engineering. And then I went and worked. Actually, I worked at General Motors on the driverless car project, which is when I started becoming more interested in applied computer science. Before that, a lot of the stuff that I was doing was a lot more theoretical. And so by the time, in 2014, I had moved to LA, having worked as a software engineer for a few years, and connected with my partner, who his name is Adam Sumner, who is a software engineer as well. And at the time, we were 27. We were both married, but we didn't have a family yet. And I would say that we kind of went ahead. We launched what at the time was purely like a software consultancy that is going to help folks get to market. That was kind of like the original concept. All the way to now, I don't know. I am a dad. I have two kids, 4 and 6, Milo and Luca. And I have to be honest, like, I don't think that our business goals, right, in terms of this like outcome are things that I think about every day, right? I more think about like the health of the business and the health of the team as like a separate unit, rather than like my take home or how it affects kind of my day to day. And maybe that's also because I've been fortunate enough to see success and to have a comfortable life. The thing about Goji that I struggle with, and you guys have run businesses, so I don't know how you're able to do this, but I do struggle to just separate. I struggle to be just a dad without like the push notifications and the emails coming in. There's always something that's a little bit on fire. There's always the next thing I got to work on. And in that sense, there's like an impact for family life. But I think that's kind of like the road that we chose. And I don't know, could always do a better job, I think, of creating that separation.
Yeah.
Not sure how you guys feel, but that's what I've noticed. And it's been more so in the last few years.
Adam has kids now too, as well?
Yeah, Adam has a daughter, Olivia.
Just one. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So you've been married for more than 10 years, sounds like?
Yeah. We got married and started the business with that laptop program you mentioned.
How does her viewpoint factor into some of this thought process too? Does she work outside the house? Are you, does she feel you pulled away from her a bit into the business? Would it be a welcome thing for her? Does she think like, you know what, this guy'd be lost without his business? I'd be kicking him out of the house if he sold the business. I don't know. Like, where does she land?
I would say, I mean, speaking for Nicole for a sec, like, so she's seeing me, like, we've been together for a long time. We've been together before we started Goji. So she's kind of been there for the successes and the tribulations. I'll get the odd, like, you're not here, that does happen. And it's because it's true. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that will happen. But yeah, she actually works in a family business. So I think she understands well what it takes to run. And, she has a bit of an entrepreneurial journey as well. So from my perspective, Clint, this is kind of the route that we chose. And we were committed, like, we're doing it. Would she be happy if I didn't have to do this anymore? Or if she felt I didn't have to? Good question. I don't know. I will say though, for myself, I wouldn't be lost if I didn't have this. I'm not really doing this because I have to, or because I'm like really, really attached to it, in the sense that, I'm after it. It's just that we started this journey. It has morphed into more than I ever thought that it would really be. And beyond the responsibility to our partners and to our team members, I mean, we're having fun. So like, let's keep it going,
That's great.
So you're 37 now or 38?
37.
37. Cool. Well, I'm almost ready for a verdict here, Patrick. Like, I feel like, David, like you're an amazing story. You're just so likable. I love the business you've built. You just exude competence in your space, and like I'm wanting to figure out how to work with you and send you some business just from this first meeting. I feel like you are inspired, but with a asterisk. And the asterisk is like, I think you're a great candidate for a minority or majority recap deal. You know, like you're 37, you still enjoy what you're doing. You're still clearly passionate about what you're doing, but you've entertained some conversations. You've used the word chips off the table, which tells me you've been thinking about it in the back of your head a little bit. The thought of securing a bag a little bit for you and your family while securing a bright future for your employees and a fun way to scale up to maybe a whole other level with a high power partner would appeal to you. And so like, I feel like you're kind of one foot in each camp. Like you're building a great business that you could sell, but you don't have to, but you could be a good candidate. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this little podcast sparks some interest of like, hey, we should talk about a majority recap, or we should talk about a minority recap with you. But I think it would be, the dollars and cents wouldn't drive the conversation 100% with you. It would be like,
That's right.
The right fit. You have to find the right partner. You use that word with your clients. You would want to use that word with a potential acquiring partner as well. And so I think that's what it would be all about for you. I could be way off base here, but like, I feel like Patrick, he's like definitely inspired, but he's also prime candidate for a partial acquisition. And I think that's probably the strategy. If I was your M&A advisor, I'd be like, you know what, we should think about that, as a way forward.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody comes in and buys out part of the business at a, 9 or 10x multiple now, and then says, let's push this thing for another 5 to 7 years and then see if we can exit for 15 or whatever the second bite of the apple might look like. And then you're really set. But I feel the same way.
But that is
Very
something
cool.
you've been entertaining that, it sounds like, or you've had that thought process before. Is that true from?
Yeah, pretty much exactly that thought process. And the question too is like, Pat kind of touched on that, like second bite of the apple that we discussed earlier. So like, what is that 1-2 punch? Like, how do we kind of get there? And like, it's gotta be about increasing. How do we make something that's bigger than like the sum of its parts, basically, right? So like, how does selling even a part today, like help us get to kind of drive growth into the future? In a way that I think preserve the best things about Goji, and will help potential acquirer really capture that value. So, Clint, I feel like I don't know if you often get feedback on your rubric there at the end, but I think you have us right. To folks who are potentially interested, like we always learn from these conversations, and we'll always have a conversation, but I try to pretty accurately represent where our head at, where our head's at really at Goji, and try to find where there's potential value that we can capture.
Great. It's been a really fun conversation. I feel like I've run most of the questions I wanted. I was just so curious about this whole story when I first saw you were coming on the show. So it's been delightful spending time with you. Patrick, is there anything else you wanted to cover while we have David here?
The only other thing I was thinking, I think Clint and I we have the same benefits you have, where because of the business you're in, you're at the like center of deal flow and you see what's happening, So do you invest in any of your client projects, or is that another thing that goes through your head of like, what if we just hang on here and like take X amount of profit here and then invest X amount into our clients' fundraisers?
Yeah, Patrick, we do that in select partnerships, primarily with our startup clients. I mean, we like doing it just because it creates a little bit of skin in the game for us, potentially upside potential, but also just creates a strong relationship for our partners to know that we're like investing in them and in their success. we don't, honestly, like we don't really factor that into sort of like our revenue model in any way, right? This is just something that we do kind of like extra to create those strong relationships. But I think that's a great question and good probably for folks to know that is something we definitely entertain on a case by case basis.
Got it. Any of those panned out yet or still waiting?
I think we'd have to qualify what panned out means. It's kind of a long, especially when you do like an equity deal, like it's a long road. But some that we've acquired kind of were able to get to like an A or even a B raise, and we're kind of hanging in there to see how that materializes.
Nice. All right. That's exciting. Well, this has been really fun, man. So thank you for coming on. If people want to connect with you online, where should they do that? Website or on LinkedIn, or where should they go?
I think if people want to connect with you directly, LinkedIn is the best place to do so. Barlev. Can always reach out on our website as well, but that feels a little impersonal. So folks are welcome to hunt me down personally and give me a buzz.
All right. We'll link that in the show notes. So good to see you. Thanks for coming on. We'll talk soon.
Guys, thank you so much for the invite. This was lovely, and we'll talk soon.